See that?
All yours.
Anyone else?
Oh boy. All right, so you don't want to talk? There you go.
I am a god, you dull creature, and I will not be bullied by that.
Puny god.
Welcome to Livewire, people. Good to see you this morning. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you so much for being here. Those of you that are joining us online, thank you for hanging out with us also. So we've been on a series called Superheroness, and if you've missed any of these messages, actually this is week 4. And even though last week was Mother's Day, which was, we had a special time in here. If you missed it, moms, you can catch it online. You can catch any of these messages online at wiredalive.com/media. You can watch them online. You can listen to them online. You could download them. You could send them to somebody. Definitely invite you and encourage you to check out the series from the beginning. Each of these messages, anytime we do a series here at Livewire, each of the messages stand alone, but they also build on each other. And so that's why it's so great to catch the series from the beginning and join it in week to week. And even if you're not able to physically be here, again, like I said, you can get online, get caught up. But there again, they also stand alone as far as each of the messages. And so we've been on this series called Superheroness, and we asked this question way back in week 1. We asked the question, like, wouldn't it be so awesome as we see these superheroes like Spider-Man and Hulk and Thor, Captain America, Superman. We see these superheroes, and it would just be so awesome to have their strength, to have their physique, to have their superpowers, you know. And one of the things that we discovered is that there are powers that are available to us. Now, I say powers simply because there are two sides to powers that are available to us. You've got the power of the Holy Spirit, which we talked about again back in week 1. I'm not going to rehash that, but you've got God's power or the Spirit's power, and then you also have sin's power or the devil's power. You've got two powers that are trying to get our attention, so to speak. Now, one works for us while another one works against us. There's one that benefits our life. There's one side or one power that benefits our life, but then there's that other side, that other power that is actually detrimental to our life, that actually works against us. One is working for us. One wants us to succeed. One wants us to be blessed. One side wants us to have a fulfilled and full life, and the other side actually pretends like it wants to give us life and actually is trying to rob life from us, trying to take life from us, trying to snuff the life out of us. And that's the devil's side, or that's sin's power. Now, sin's power also wants to control us. God's power or the Spirit's power actually wants to benefit us. It wants to help us move forward, wants to help us get through maybe some of the things that we struggle in this life. And if we're honest, if we're absolutely honest with ourselves and we're absolutely honest with the people around us, every single one of us have something in our life, at least one thing, and I would venture to say there's probably a bunch of things that we have in our life that we would like to see change. And that we would like to see it change for the better, that we would like to see it change for the greater, that we would like to actually move forward in certain areas of our life. Maybe that's in raising our children. Maybe that's within our marriage. Maybe that's just our friendships. Maybe it's our career or our job. Maybe it's with our finances. Maybe it's in our thought pattern as we talk about the connection groups. Maybe it's our thought pattern. Maybe there's some things that we're just thinking that for whatever reason, maybe they were implanted in us when we were kids by our parents. Maybe they were implanted by friends or particular jobs or school teachers, different things, that certain thoughts that we think that we just know, man, I need to get rid of that thought pattern. I need to get rid of that negative thought pattern or that horrible thought pattern. Now, speaking of thought patterns, okay, we've been talking about power, And there's also another power that's available to us, and yet that power also can come from two sides, from those two sides, either from sin, the devil, or from God, from his spirit. How many of you have ever played the game Words with Friends? Anybody have that app on your phone? All right, Words with Friends, if you're familiar with Scrabble, it's much like Scrabble, and you're creating words, putting words together, and basically you're battling your friends, either people that you know or you're just battling people around the world, that you're creating these words. The cool thing with Words with Friends is that you don't have to play the whole entire game right there in that very moment. You could put a word down, and maybe the friend that you're playing, the person that you're playing against, maybe they're working or whatever, they can come back when it's their turn, and they can create a word. And so Words with Friends is like, again, like the old-time Scrabble, and you're creating all kinds of different words, and you're just trying to, you see letters, and you're just trying to put words together. Well, I want to talk about words this morning and how powerful words truly are. And you can go back to the negative thought patterns that we may have, or maybe the way that we see ourselves, and maybe there's certain things that about ourselves that we say, well, I can never accomplish that. Have you ever said that before? I can never achieve that. Have you ever said that before? I can never overcome this. Have you ever said that before? I can never get past this. Have you ever said that before? Because the reason why we say those things is because somewhere along the line we believed a lie. We believe something that somebody said about us, or that something that somebody said to us. And again, it may have been family, it may have been friends, it may have been at school, it may have been over the television, over the internet, just something. We got information somewhere that spoke words to us that caused us to think a certain way. Now, good or bad, but here is what we want to look at this morning, is how powerful words are in our own lives, and how powerful words are in other people's lives. In other words, the words that we speak to other people. Now, I don't know if you know this, but God actually created the world. Everything that existed that did not exist before God created it, everything that did not exist came into existence by words. We're going to go to Genesis chapter 1. Let me just say this for a moment. If you've got your phone, and if you're not much of a pen and paper writer, and you like kind of typing stuff up using your thumbs and all of that, if you've got the YouVersion Bible app, if you want to pull that up, you go to the YouVersion Bible app. On the left side there, you should have different tabs. One of them says Live Events. If you click on Live Events, it should bring you to another section there that says Search for Events in your area. You search for events, and you should see Live Wire Experience right there. All the notes, everything that we're going to talk about this morning is right there, and you can also type your own notes and all of those things. So check that out on the YouVersion app, Live Events. Search for Live Events in your area. Live Wire Experience is where we're at. Now, Moses is the one that is credited for writing the first 5 books of the Bible. Now, Moses is the one, if you remember, Moses is the guy that God used to deliver the children of Israel out of Egypt. They were in slavery, they were in bondage, and so after so many years, hundreds of years, God delivered the children of Israel through Moses. And then obviously Moses wasn't there at the beginning when God created it all, but God told Moses the story. Here's how it all happened, here's how it all took place. So Moses records creation for us because we don't have it, and we're not exactly sure. We're still trying to discover to this day, trying to discover how it all came to be. How did everything that did not exist, how did it exist? And yes, there is a creator, and yes, his name is God, and God is the one that created everything that lives. Now Moses records this in Genesis 1:1. Notice this. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. God created the heavens, God created heaven, God created planet Earth, okay? Now, the word created, when we look at that word created, not only is it to bring something that doesn't exist into existence, but the very things that we're getting ready to look at that God created, they came into existence because God spoke them into existence. Notice this. Drop down to verse 3. Then God said, let there be light, so there was light. God just said, light be. Actually, that's what this translates. Light be, and light was. I mean, when you look this up in the original language, all God really said was light be, and light was. He said light be, and light was. Whatever it is that God said, it came to be exactly the way that God said for it to come to be. Again, verse 9, then God said, let the water under the sky come together in one area, and let the dry land appear. And so it was. So in other words, God says, here's all the water. I want to collect the water in certain areas, and I want the land to be in certain areas. And it became exactly the way that God spoke it into existence. Verse 11, then God said, let the earth produce vegetation, plants bearing seeds, each according to its own type, and fruit trees bearing fruit with seeds, each according to its own type. And so it was. So God says, let there be fruit, and let there be vegetables. And there it was. I mean, plants just started shooting up out of the ground, and trees just started growing out of the ground, and fruit just started coming on the vegetable plants, or vegetables started growing on the vegetable plants, and fruit started coming off on the trees, and so all of these things started. I mean, can you imagine being there? Like, man wasn't created at this point. We'll get to that in a second. But man wasn't even created just yet. But can you imagine, like, being on the land and just seeing this stuff happening? Like, you're on land and it's moving, and the land is coming together with other land, and then you see like water is around you, and then you see like plants just starting to come up, and grass starting to come up, and these trees starting to come up. I mean, that would be absolutely amazing. But notice, God speaks these things, and they just happen. They just happen like clockwork. As soon as God says them, they just happen. Verse 24, then God said, let the earth produce every type of living creature, every type of domestic animal, crawling animal, and wild animal, and so it was. And I know what some of you all are thinking, especially you ladies. Why did God have to say crawling animals? I don't like spiders. I know that's what some of you ladies are thinking. Me, it doesn't bother me. I just kill the sucker. We were watching, in fact, just yesterday, we were watching America's Funniest Videos, AFV, if any of you watch AFV, and there was a kid that he didn't want to close the door to their house, and you know, they're showing the video starting from there, and he doesn't want to close the door, and he's like, come on, help me with this, and he doesn't want to close it, and he looks in there, and you're just thinking, man, there's got to be a bear on the other side of this door. There's got to be a bear. I mean, this dude is terrified. Honestly, he was literally scared out of his wits, just afraid to close the door completely. And so he nudges the door or opens the door just a little bit, and he tries to stick like a broom through the door. And you know what's on the other side of the door that he doesn't want to close the door on? A moth. A moth. And the reason he doesn't want to close the door is because he doesn't want to squash the moth. I'm like, idiot! Just grab the moth by its wings and throw it, all right? Stop being a wuss. You know, but I could see just kind of some of you are just like, man, why did God have to create this one? Why did God have to create that one, man? I can't handle those daddy long legs that walk up in my house. You know, they're just creepy. And so some of you are just like, man, why did God, why couldn't you just retract those words back? And we'll come back to that in a few moments. Well, God, why did you let those words come out? Why did those words? But notice God says land animals, crawling animals, birds, and fish. And fish just started swimming in the waters, swimming in the seas, swimming in the ocean, swimming in lakes. Animals started walking around. Can you imagine if you were there and animals just come out of thin air? Just out of thin air. God speaks it, and it comes to pass. Genesis 1:26, then God said, let us make humans in our image and our likeness. And you see actually even a longer version of how this took place in Genesis chapter 2. But that God spoke, and God said, let us make man. And man was made, and woman was made, all because of words. Words. Now listen, because it's not just God's words that are powerful. Our words create what doesn't exist. Think about that for a moment. Our words create what doesn't exist. Now, we don't have the exact same power that God has. I mean, I would love to call up some cheese curds from Culver's in my hand right now, and just while I'm talking with you, be chomping on some cheese curds, or maybe get a steak and shake, you know, and I would love to speak that thing into existence right now. And actually, I'm hungry. I didn't have any breakfast. So I would love to just kind of snap my finger and say, shake B. Try that again, shake B. And it doesn't happen. We don't have the power that God has as far as when he speaks something that doesn't exist into existence, when he calls something that doesn't exist into existence. We don't have that same power, but our words, friends, our words have the power to create what doesn't exist. Let me give you a couple examples. One of them would be a general gives a command for his troop to execute. And what does his troop do? They execute the very words, the very command that he gives them, don't they? Whatever it is that general says, whatever he tells his soldiers to do, if he tells them to jump, they better jump. If he tells them to run, they better run. If he tells them to run 10 miles, they better get to running 10 miles. But whatever it is that general tells his soldiers to do, they're going to execute the very words that he speaks. Let's take a CEO for example. A CEO will get his lead team together, will get his leaders together over different departments, his directors and all of those things. And a CEO will share his vision. He'll download his vision into his team. And what does his team do? They take his vision and they execute it. They follow it through. They say, all right, here's the vision of this organization. Here's the vision of this church. Here's the vision of this particular business. Here's the vision that the CEO has given us, and now we need to run with it. And they're expected to run with it. They're going to run with the vision. Why? They're hired to do a job, aren't they? They're hired by that CEO or that president or that manager. They're hired by that particular individual, that boss, to do a particular job. And if that particular job isn't done, what happens? They're gone. So, if somebody doesn't want to fulfill the vision, that's fine. Go somewhere else because you don't have a job here anymore. But the point is this. When a CEO speaks, something's getting done. What he wants executed, the vision that he has for his organization, that's what's getting done by his team. Take a young boy or a young girl that hears over and over and over, I love you. You are the best thing that has happened to your mom and I's life. We love you. And they're just saturated with that love over and over and over and over. What are they going to grow up with? What are they going to grow up with, the foundation that they're going to grow up with? What are they going to remember? What are they going to know as they get into elementary school and they might be afraid or they start having other friends, or maybe they do something wrong, or they get into their teenage years? They're going to remember that mom and dad always told them that they love them, and they know that mom and dad loves them. Now here's the other thing though. The opposite is very true, isn't it? Go back to those very same kids. Go back to that little boy and go back to that little girl that's constantly being told how stupid that they are, how stupid they are. It's constantly being told, you're never going to amount to anything, and I wish I never had you, and you're an accident. Kids, friends, please hear me. Kids are being told these lies over and over and over all around our world. Right here in our city, right in our very state, in our nation, and around the world, kids are being told that they're going to amount to nothing. Kids are being told how stupid they are. Kids are being told that they're no good, and they always do bad, and they're always doing things wrong, and they never do it to way they don't obey mom and dad, or they're being told that they're not gonna make it, or that they're an accident. And maybe just maybe that's you even this morning. Maybe you remember going back to your childhood years and your teenage years, and maybe some of those lies were told to you. And maybe to this day, you still believe some of it. And why? Because words are powerful. It's not just God's words that are powerful. Our very words bring things that right now may not be in existence, will cause them to be in existence by the very words that we speak. So something that we've got to ask ourselves is, what words are coming out of our mouths? What words are we using? What are we saying? What are we saying to loved ones? What are we saying to our friends? What are we saying to family members? What are we saying to people that we work with? What are we saying about our family members, people that we work with? What are we saying about the people in our lives? What words are we choosing to use for those people, for each and every person that's in our life, or each and every person that we come in contact with, because words are powerful. We talked about King Solomon last week. King Solomon is David's son, all right? He's the next king, third king of Israel, and he's David's son. And Solomon wrote most of the Proverbs, if not all the Proverbs. Solomon wrote Proverbs, and one of the Proverbs that we want to look at, Proverbs 18:21. Notice this: the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love to talk will have to eat their own words. Good or bad? I mean, good or bad, you're going to eat your own words. Now, some of us have, some of us are constantly putting our foot in our mouth. Some of us like to talk. Ladies, I didn't say that. Some of us just love to talk. Now, there's nothing wrong with talking. It's not that, if you're a talker, you love to talk. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not necessarily like that's a negative. I'm not saying that. But what are the words that we're eating? What are the words that we're eating? Because they could be good or they could be bad. Whatever it is that we're saying, what is it that's coming back because we've said about so-and-so or this person or that person, some of the words that we've spoke about, or even about our own lives, and we're eating those very, very words. But notice, the tongue has the power of life and death. Now, it uses the word tongue, and now notice that the tongue has the power of life and death. Now, there's a figure, it's speaking figuratively here, but it's also literal. Now, it's not literal from the standpoint of, obviously, I can't go around and cut people with my tongue, although, man, that'd be cool. It's like, what, you got a problem? Watch out. I got a sharp two-edged sword in this thing. That would be kind of cool, but that's not the literal sense of what it's talking about there. We can't literally bring life to people or death to people by our tongue. In other words, it's not a weapon that we can literally use, right? So it's talking figuratively there, and actually it's using something, or Solomon is using a figure of speech that is known as metonymy, I believe is the word. And it's where you use one word to stand in for another. In other words, just an example, the White House issued a statement. Okay, well, we know that literally the White House, the building, can't issue any statements, right? I mean, the building can't actually write a statement and issue it. But we know that the president who lives in the White House could actually issue a statement for the White House, right? Well, that's what the word tongue is being used as. It's a word that's standing in for another word. In other words, the word tongue is standing in, or it is a metonym or a metonym for speech or words, the spoken word. It's using spoken word. And so whether we're talking about, and we'll look at a couple other verses in just a second, but whether we're talking about the tongue or lips or mouth, usually it's in reference to the spoken word. So when Solomon is writing this down, he's using figurative speech here. He's using a figure of speech, but it's also a literal sense to it. He's saying that, yes, the tongue is not literally a weapon, but yet at the same time, it can bring life and death into people's lives. At the same time, the very words that come out are either bringing life to people, or the very words that are coming out are bringing death to people. And you and I know this. We run into people all the time. There are people, some people are just negative. I mean, they are just negative. Every word that comes out of their mouth, it's just negative, negative, negative. Some people are they're constantly talking about other people, talking down about other people, cutting people down, cutting people up. I mean, just constantly. Some people are just, man, their words that just constantly are just rude. I mean, everywhere they go and everyone they talk to, I mean, they don't even have to be in a bad mood. You would hate to see them in a bad mood, because in their normal mood, they're just rude. They're rude. Some people, they're just mean with their words. They're just constantly mean. I mean, they don't care about what other people think and what other people think about them or say about them, whatever. Every word that comes out of their mouth is just mean. And words have the power to change people's lives for better or for worse. They're either bringing life. Our words are either bringing life, or our words are bringing death. Our words are either blessing people, or our words are actually cursing people. I want to look at a couple examples, and here's what I'd like for us to do. Personally, I want you and myself to just see, where do we fit in some of these things? Because I want to draw some, or I want to share some examples from Scripture here. Some of the examples that we could see that where's our part in it? What are the words that we share? What is it that comes out of our mouth on a regular basis? Again, Solomon writes in Proverbs 10:11, he says, the mouth of a righteous person is a fountain of life. The mouth of a righteous person, a person that loves Jesus, they are consistently just speaking words that just benefit people's lives. I mean, it's like a fountain of life for their own lives, but then it's just a fountain that's flowing into other people's lives as well. They're just constantly looking, they're constantly speaking the best in people's lives. No matter what they see, no matter what that person does or what that person says, they're constantly thinking and speaking the best over their life. And here's the thing, this is a perfect description of what God does with us. See, God has nothing bad to say about you and I. God has nothing bad to say, and this will twist, or this will flip some people's theology. God has nothing to say about the most wicked person on the face of this earth. Whoever that is. I don't know who that is, but whoever that is, God doesn't have anything bad to say, anything evil to say, any type of cursing to speak over that particular individual. God doesn't, because everything that comes out of God's mouth, everything that God speaks is words of life, words that are going to benefit people's lives. God is always looking, and maybe you don't believe this, all right? But here's what God is seeing about you. When God sees you, God sees the very best you that you will become or that you can become. Now, sure, it's up to you and I whether we actually become that. It's up to us. God's not going to force his will upon our lives, because then that would negate free will that he gave us, right? And so God's not going to force his will on us, but God is constantly speaking over you the very best you that you can become. And that you will become if you just kind of stay in line with him and what he wants for your life. But God doesn't look at you and start spouting off negative things. Man, I wish they would grow up. Man, I wish they would stop being stupid. Man, I wish they would stop doing foolish things. I wish they would just get their act together. I wish they would just serve me. I wish they would just obey me. I wish they would just do right. God doesn't do that. See, God doesn't speak negative, or God doesn't use his words to cut us down. God doesn't use his words to break us down. God doesn't use his words to cut us up. He doesn't do that. See, God's constantly looking in your life, and he sees, through Jesus Christ, he sees the very best person that you can possibly become. And so God's speaking that. Man, look at my child. Man, she is so blessed. He is so blessed. He's so awesome. She's so awesome. Man, she does right. He does right. Everything he thinks, I mean, it just brings glory to me. It's just holy. It's just good. It's wholesome. It's beneficial. Every word that comes out of him and her mouth, his and her mouth, every word that comes out, they're just constantly speaking blessing over people's lives. They're just kind words are coming out, words of love and words of hope, and man, I just love my child. I just love my children. God speaks words of life over us. And somebody that really loves Jesus consistently speaks words of life. They're just a fountain of life. Ephesians 4:29, a guy by the name of Paul wrote most of the New Testament of the Bible. And actually, Paul, if you know anything about Paul actually, his name was Saul, became Paul later on. But he actually didn't believe that Jesus was the Messiah and that Jesus died and rose from the dead initially. And then he had an encounter with Jesus, a face-to-face encounter that turned his world upside down. And then he ends up writing three-quarter or most of the New Testament of the Bible. But Paul writes this in Ephesians 4:29. Don't say anything that would hurt another person. Now again, let's make it personal. What words are coming out of our mouths? Actually, another translation of this verse, it says, let no corrupt communication come out of your mouth. Don't say anything that would hurt another person. Instead, speak only what is good so that you can give help wherever it is needed. That way, what you say will help those who hear you. Some people, their words, they just don't help anybody. Again, they're just negative. And it's not, it doesn't even have to be that things are going bad. Things could be going good. And they'll find, do you know that person? They'll find something negative to say about anything. They'll find something to complain about. Everything is good, everything is great, everything's just moving and rolling like clockwork, but they'll find something to complain about. Something to complain about. They just want to complain about something. I got to use my words to complain about something. There's got to be something. I'm going to find something. And so Paul's saying, don't take our words. Let's not take our words and use them to hurt each other with. Because even though it's not literally a weapon, it is a weapon that starts cutting people up. That can cut people up and that can cut people down. We remember this, being kids especially, and even being teenagers. We remember we would talk behind people's back, or we would cut people down. Your mama's so fat, and all that stuff. And we would just cut people down. We would just really degrade people, and we would just really just do whatever it is that we could to just make somebody feel like maybe they were about 5 feet tall, maybe they were 5'5", and now we're going to make them about an inch tall with the words that we use. And Paul's saying, man, don't use words to hurt each other, because words stick. Words have the ability of sticking. Isn't it amazing that we could say some good things to each other? Like, we could share some good words with each other, and we receive it, and it's like, oh, man, thank you, man. I appreciate the way that you did that. Oh, you know what? You did that really well. That was awesome. Keep it up. We could share good words with each other, right? And we're thankful for it, and we're just like, man, it builds us up, and we're just like, wow, man, that's awesome. They noticed, my boss noticed, or Josh noticed, or whatever, right? But isn't it amazing how when somebody says something negative about us, when somebody gets down on us, when somebody cuts us up in some way, that every good thing that we've heard, it's like it goes out the window, and the thing that we remember is the negativity, the negative statement that somebody made about us. There could be 10 good things. There could be 10 good things that are said on a feedback form that people fill out at Livewire. Oh, man, this was good, awesome, love the message, man. Josh is the greatest pastor ever. True. All these things and all this good stuff, right? And then there's that one that says, man, the message sucked, and that pastor that was up there, man, he sucks too. And actually, he should never speak again. And if I read that, it's like that'll stick out more than all the other 10. It's like, I'll focus in on that like, oh my gosh, I'm horrible. I can't do anything right. And it's amazing how we'll question everything in our life. It's like the statement may be directed at maybe a particular thing. Maybe we smiled wrong or something. But then we will go back and we will wonder, man, should I even live anymore? Like, we will take it to the extreme and we'll say, man, maybe I don't deserve to live. Maybe I'm no good. Maybe I'm not good in anything. And all it was is that we didn't smile. I know that that's a cheesy example, but that's the one I'm going with. We didn't smile. And now it's like our life is in shambles. The point is this, is that words are powerful. And the negative ones, especially the ones that are just discouraging and the ones that are degrading, or the ones that cut us up, it's like we remember those even more so. And it has a lot to do with the fallen world that we live in, that is sin infested, and even ourselves, that we have a sinful nature in and of ourselves. And so our sinful nature gravitates to that very thing, because that's exactly what the devil wants for your life and for my life, is to start beating ourselves up about what everybody else said. Is to start beating ourselves up about somebody saying, well, you didn't smile. Well, you did that okay. Well, that was decent. You didn't do that good at all. You're horrible. You should never speak again. You should never have kids. You can't raise kids. You're not a good parent. Not at all. Nowhere near a good parent. You know, you're a horrible husband. You're a horrible wife. Spouses, husbands, wives, your words are killing each other. You're wondering why your marriage is going to shambles, and a lot of it has to do with the words that you speak to each other. What are you saying? What are you saying to each other? Are you constantly lifting each other up? Are you constantly building each other up? Or are you constantly tearing each other down? Are you constantly crushing each other? You know, you're a horrible husband. Why can't you just do this? Why can't you just do that right? Why can't you just go to church with me? Words, they're powerful. What are we speaking? Because Paul says, instead, speak only what's good so that you can give help. What do you want to do with your words? What do I want to do with my words? Do we want to help people or do we want to hinder people? Like husbands, what do we want to do in our marriages? Do we want to help our wives or do we want to hinder them? Wives, same thing. What do you want to do? Do you want to hinder your husband or do you want to help your husband? What do we want to do with our children, with our words? Do we want to help them or do we want to hinder them? Do we want to see growth happen or do we want to stunt that growth? Because it'll all happen by the very words that we speak. Words of life or words of death. Words possess the power to alter the trajectory of someone's life for the better or worse. That's what words do. Words have that power to change somebody's life, to change the course of somebody's life for the better or for the worse. And we have to decide, what am I doing with my words? And are my words bringing life to people? Are they making people's lives better? Because people, honestly, you and I, we will live up to the very words. We will esteem, we will pursue, we will go after the very good words, the very words of life that people speak over us. I mean, we'll do it. When our boss says, man, I believe that you can do this. I'm putting you in this position and I believe in you. I believe that you can do this. I believe that you can make more sales. I believe that you can get our business heading in the right direction. I believe when your husband comes to you and says, I believe that you are the best woman for me. And you are the best, you're the best mother for our children. Or you go to your husband, you say, you're the best husband in the world. There is nobody that can take your place. And you're the best father for our children. When we start speaking those things, when we're speaking words of life to each other, and maybe we are not quite there, but again, going back to what God does with us, when he sees us, he doesn't see the one that we are right now. See, I know, listen, I'll just throw myself out there. I know my failures. I know my mistakes. And I know exactly what God sees when he sees me. But instead of choosing to see exactly who I am right now today, God chooses to see what I will become. And so God speaks those over me. And so what happens is I start hearing what God says about me, that he says, I am the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus, that he says I'm in right standing with him. And I'm looking at God and I'm saying, that can't be. I just lied yesterday. I just cheated yesterday. I just messed up yesterday to God. That can't be. But God is speaking those words of life so that when I come to grips of it and I say, yeah, okay, God, if that's what you're saying about me, all right, I'm gonna rise up to the occasion. I'm gonna rise up to do that. It's the same thing that we can do with each other. When we speak words over each other that maybe we don't exactly see that we don't see that person there yet, but instead of choosing to see what they are right now, start speaking who they will become. Start speaking who they can become, because your words will stick to them. Your words will stick to them, and they'll rise up to the occasion and say, all right, yeah, you believe in me? Man, it's about time, because nobody has ever believed in me. I wonder how many people are walking around today and nobody's ever believed in them. And what if you came along? What if I came along? Nobody's ever believed in them. And we just did what everybody else did. I don't believe in you either. You suck. Or instead, what if nobody has ever believed in them? Nobody has ever trusted them with anything. Nobody's ever believed in them, never given them any hope. And you and I come along, whether it's at work, whether it's a family member, it's a friend, you and I come along and we say, man, I believe in you. I think you could do it. You want to start your own business? I think you could do it. You want to get out of debt? I think you can do it. You want to have a better marriage? I honestly believe that you could do it. I believe in you, man. And I'm here for you. I want to help you in any way that I can. What's that person going to do? And they say, really? You think I can? And they're going to rise up to the occasion. And you and I have the ability to see people that right now they're just hearing death from every angle. We could speak life into them. Proverbs 18:8, notice this. I've got to move quickly here. The words of a gossip, Solomon writes this, the words of a gossip are swallowed greedily and they go down into a person's innermost being. Notice this. Some people just gossip, man. Some ladies just stay at home all day, call up their friends, and they're just talking about everybody on the phone. Everybody that they work with, who used to be their BFF and now is no longer their BFF, and why they're not their BFF, and just constantly gossip. And did you notice what happens? The words of a gossip are swallowed. I mean, the people that are hearing it, because they love to gossip too. So they're just swallowing it right up. Oh, really? So-and-so did that? Well, I don't like her either. You know? So-and-so did this? So-and-so said that? Oh, well, I'm not their friend either. Well, I don't want to be around them either. Oh, wow, really? You saw that? No, they'll swallow it right up. And so the very things that we're gossiping about, that we're cutting people up with, that we're not even man enough, woman enough to say it to their face, but we'll tell everybody else, and we'll burn them at the stake without them being there. We'll burn them with other people. We'll just kind of tell them, hey, here's what they've done, here's who they are, here's what, and a lot of times, a lot of gossip is just lies, right? A lot of gossip is just lies, but here's the thing is what happens. The people that you're telling, they don't know that it's a lie. They think that it's true. And so they swallow it right up. Oh, really? That person did that? Oh, they acted that way? Oh, they treated you that way? Oh, they said that? Oh, okay. Well, I'm not going to be with them either. I'm not going to hang out with them either. I don't want anything to do with them either. They swallow it right up. They take the very words that you're sharing or that I might be sharing or that some people are sharing as true, as fact, and they swallow it right up. And people don't realize the devastation that they're causing to marriages, the devastation they're causing to business partnerships, the devastation that they're causing to just relationships and general friendships by the gossip that they're just sharing and that they're just spewing to other people. Again, where do we stand here? Where do we stand with that? Where do you stand? Where do I stand? Am I a gossiper? Am I spreading rumors about people that aren't true? Am I telling things that are true that should not even be said? Am I sharing that? Private things. Am I sharing that with other people to hurt them? Colossians 4:6, Paul writes again. He says, everything you say should be kind and well thought out so that you know how to answer everyone. Now notice, because man, these are wise words right here. I don't know if you pick up on the wisdom here. But notice, he says everything that you say should be kind. Have kind words coming out of our mouths. But the second half, and well thought out so that you know how to answer everyone. Man, husbands, this will save us from so many arguments and maybe slam doors and fights or whatever if we will just think through what we should say before we say it. Because here's the reality. Once it's said, it cannot be retracted. Once it's spoken, yeah, you can apologize. You be forgiven. You can get down on your knees. I'm so sorry and all of that. But the words have been spoken. And the words will cut. The words will cut. And so the words that come out of our mouths They're going to cut. And so Paul is writing these very wise words, and he says, before a word even comes out of your mouth, before it comes out of your lips, before it comes forth from your tongue, think about what you want to say, how you want to answer that person. Because some people are just smart. You know what I mean? Some people could just, man, they're just wise guys. And just, I mean, they got a quick word. But sometimes, you know, after putting that quick word out there, you realize, oh, I just said that. Insert foot in mouth, right? So Paul says everything that you say, it should be kind and well thought out. He also writes Ephesians 5:4, it's not right that dirty stories, foolish talk, obscene jokes should be mentioned among you either. Instead, give thanks to God. Notice that. Now, the reason why these things shouldn't be said is, here's the thing. If all we do is watch rated R movies, for example, if all we do is watch rated R movies, I mean, it's rated R for a reason, right? There's going to be language, there's going to be nudity, there's going to be violence. And if that's all we watch, even though we don't go in with the intent that, oh, well, you know, I'm gonna start cussing just like they do in the movies. I'm gonna start, you know, being sexual like they do in the movies. I'm gonna start being violent. I'm gonna start being violent. I'm gonna start acting this way. But even though we don't go into, and I believe that all of us probably don't go into watching a movie with that intent. But when we see something over and over and over and over, it becomes something that is etched in our mind. And it becomes something that drops down into our heart and gets etched into our heart. And whether we want to believe it or not, and whether we want to live it or not, or whether we want to share it or not, or talk it or not, right? Eventually, we will become it. We will become whatever it is that we bring, whatever we put into our lives. And so that's why Paul is saying, hey, instead of those things, thank God. Use your words to thank God, because everything else, like all this other stuff, all it is going to be detrimental to your life. The very thing. So that's why we have to be careful as to what we see and what we hear over and over and over and over, because that's what's going to come out of our mouth. Proverbs 16:27-29. Notice this. A worthless person plots trouble, and his speech is like a burning fire. A devious person spreads quarrels. A gossip separates the closest of friends. A violent person misleads his neighbor and leads him on a path that is not good. Friends, this is in you. This is in you. Now, David, Solomon's dad, wrote this in Psalms. Psalm 34:12-13. Which of you wants a full life? Hands. Anybody? Who wants a full life? I do. He asked another question. Who would like to live a long enough to enjoy good things? I don't know about you. Yeah, I'm there, man. Notice what he says. You want a full life. You want to enjoy good things. Keep your tongue from saying evil things and your lips from speaking deceitful things. Because the tongue, this member, man, it can burn. But this member could also bring life. There's power in our tongue. What are we using our tongue for? Because the fulfilled and full, or the full and fulfilled life that we want, that every single one of us raise our hands, that's what I want, is directly connected to the words that we speak. Directly connected to what we're saying over our own lives and what we're saying about everybody else around us. What we're saying to people. The very words that we speak directly connected to enjoying life, living a full life. So the question that I want to ask us, what are my words creating after they leave my mouth? What are my words creating? Because they have the power to create what doesn't exist, bring it to existence. What are my words? What are your words? What are my words creating? God, right now we just come before you, and we just thank you for this morning. And God, we just thank you for this message, because I know that it's just something that every single one of us need to hear. God, every single one of us use words. Every single one of us say things. Every single one of us talk, God, and every single one of us tell stories and talk about things that are going on in our lives, and every one of us talk to people, and God, just words are so huge for our lives. So huge. And God, I just pray that this morning that we've heard just how powerful words really are. And God, I pray this morning that we have the courage to just allow you to change the way that we share our words, the way that we speak, the way that we're talking about our own life, the way that we're talking to other people, and the way that we're talking about people. God, the way that we're talking about the city that we live in and the nation that we live in, God, that our words are making a difference, and the words have the power. God, we thank you for this message again this morning. And Lord, I just pray that you would just do a work in our lives, whatever it is that we need. And God, I just pray for every single person here this morning. I just speak life over every person's life here this morning. God, instead of death, I speak life, because that's what you're speaking over them. And God, that blessing over their life and not cursing. And God, that they would rise up, that I would rise up, that we would rise up to exactly what you see us becoming. That what you see us becoming, God, that is who we are, and that we would rise to the occasion. God, we thank you for your message this morning. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.